I signed the divorce papers. The next day, my ex-wife won $5 million. This is the true story of what happened next. Let me tell you about the day my life ended and began. It was a Tuesday. Isn't it always a Tuesday? I was in a lawyer's office in downtown Chicago, a place that felt like it had all the warmth and charm of a museum after hours. The air was stale. The only sound was the nervous click of a pen from my attorney. And across from me, her face a perfect, unreadable mask, was Eleanor, my wife. For about 3 more minutes. We didn't say a word. What was there to say? Our marriage hadn't ended in a blaze of glory. No affairs, no screaming matches. It had just faded, like a photograph left in the sun. We were 2 people who had quietly become strangers sharing a lease, and now we were here to make it official. The lawyer slid the final paper toward me. A little yellow sticky arrow pointed to a line. Right there, Mark. The pen felt cold. I scrawled my name, Mark Rossi, and just like that, 7 years were over. I walked out of that building into the weak Chicago sunlight, feeling hollowed out. I drove to my new apartment, a studio that smelled like bleach and loneliness, and I just sat on the floor, leaning against a box of books I didn't have the energy to unpack. The next morning, I was eating cereal straight from the box, staring at a crack in the ceiling when my phone went insane. It was my best friend, Mike. He was practically hyperventilating. Mark! Dude! Are you seeing this? Turn on channel 7! Right now! My heart hammered against my ribs. I fumbled for the remote. The local news was on. And there she was, Eleanor. Standing in front of the 7-Eleven where she always bought her iced tea, she was holding one of those giant fake checks. The reporter, smiling way too wide, was saying the words that would haunt me for months. A massive $5 million jackpot. The lucky ticket was purchased right here yesterday afternoon by Elena Rossi. Yesterday afternoon, after the papers were signed, after the judge stamped it, after we were legally, irrevocably, finished. The cereal turned to cement in my mouth. $5 million. If I had stalled for one day. One single day. The thought was so violent, so sickening, I had to run to the bathroom. I spent the rest of the day in a numb haze. It wasn't just the money. It was the timing. The universe had played a joke on me, and it wasn't funny. But the universe was just warming up. A week later, the real torture began. Instagram. A photo of Elena laughing, her head thrown back. And next to her, a guy I'd never seen before. Tall, perfectly groomed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. His name was Chad. The caption made me want to throw my phone against the wall. When one door closes, a vault opens. So grateful for this new chapter and my amazing partner in crime, Chad. Partner in crime. The phrase echoed in my head. Was he the reason? Was this why she was so calm, so ready to walk away? The doubt was a poison. The money was one thing. This felt like a betrayal on a whole other level. The rage was a physical thing, a hot, tight coil in my chest. I was drowning in it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't work. I was just a raw nerve of anger and self-pity. Then the invitation came. Thick, cream-coloured cardstock, an exclusive launch gala for the Eleanor Rossi Foundation for Community Hope. She was throwing herself a charity ball, with my half of the money that was never mine. The location was the final twist of the knife. The old community centre in our old neighbourhood. The place where we'd met 10 years ago, volunteering at a kids' art programme. She was erasing our past, painting over our real memories with a glossy $1 million veneer. That was the moment something in me snapped. The self-pity evaporated, replaced by a cold, clear determination. I wasn't going to hide. I was going to that party. The night of the gala, I put on my one good suit and walked into a room buzzing with champagne flutes and fake laughter. It was a world of soft lights and softer lies. And there, In the center of it all was Elena, on Chad's arm. She looked like a magazine cover. He looked like a shark that had just found a lake full of seals. She saw me. Her smile didn't just falter. It vanished for a full second before she glued it back on. Chad followed her gaze, and a smug, possessive smirk spread across his face. He led her over, a conquering hero. "Mark!" "What a surprise," Eleanor said, her voice too high. "Didn't think this was your scene," Chad added, his arm tightening around her waist. "Come to see how the other half lives." The people nearby had stopped talking. They were watching. This was the humiliation I was supposed to endure. But I felt calm. Incredibly calm. "Actually," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet, "I came to make a donation to the foundation." A ripple of surprise went through the crowd. Eleanor looked confused. Chad looked suspicious. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a single folded piece of paper. It wasn't a check. It was a design schematic. I handed it to Eleanor. "It's for the tech lab," I said, my eyes locked on hers. "The one we designed together, remember? Right after we first started volunteering here. You said it was a pipe dream. Guess it's not so pipe dreamy with $5 million and a new consultant." I let my gaze flicker to Chad. The implication hung in the air, heavy and toxic. I wasn't attacking her money. I was attacking her integrity. I was reminding everyone in that room, and most importantly her, that this grand charity was built on the corpse of a shared dream she had once dismissed. The silence was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in the glasses. Elena's face was as white as the invitation. Chad's smirk was gone, replaced by a tight, angry line. I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked out. I walked through the crowd, out the doors and into the cool night air. I didn't look back. For the first time since I saw that news broadcast, I could breathe. The fallout was swift. The story spread, of course. The jilted ex-husband's quiet, brutal shutdown of the millionaire's party, the partner in crime comment, started to look desperate. People talked. The perfect shiny image tarnished almost overnight. About a month later, my phone rang. It was Eleanor. Her voice was small, broken. She was alone. Chad, the financial advisor, had taken a $200,000 consulting fee and ghosted her. The friends she'd made were fair weather. She was miserable, trapped in a golden cage of her own making. She cried, she apologized. She said it was all a mistake, a panic, a performance. I listened. I let her talk. And when she was done, I felt nothing. No rage, no satisfaction. Just a distant pity. "Eleanor," I said, my voice quiet but firm, "I don't feel sorry for you. And I don't want your money. You traded a real past for a fake future. You have to live with that." I hung up. It was over. I used that energy, that fire, for myself. I finally launched the graphic design company I'd been too scared to start for years. I called it Phoenix Creative. My first major client was a real, respected nonprofit that wanted a complete brand overhaul. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't get the money. I didn't get the girl. But I got something better. I got myself back. I got my self-respect. I got my future. The real lottery win wasn't the $5 million. It was finding out who I was when I had nothing left to lose, and realizing that person was stronger than I ever thought possible. So if you're out there, staring at what feels like the end of your world, remember my story. Your lowest point can be the foundation you build your highest success upon. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting ahead. The biggest wins aren't always the ones you can cash. Let me tell you how the dust settled. The silence after I hung up on Elena was louder than any party, any argument. It was the sound of a chapter slamming shut. Finally, the anger was gone. But what was left? This quiet space. And in that space, I found a clarity I hadn't had in years. I wasn't Mark, the betrayed ex-husband. I wasn't Mark, the guy who almost had $5 million. I was just Mark. And for the first time, that felt like enough. I poured everything into Phoenix Creative. The name wasn't just a brand, It was a promise I made to myself. I worked out of my apartment, then a shared co-working space, then a small office with a view of the L train rattling by. The noise was a reminder that the city and life moved forward. And so did I. My work became my therapy. I channeled all the pain, the betrayal, the sharp clarity from that night at the gala into my designs. They had an edge, a truth to them that clients responded to. The non-profit I landed, Urban Horizons, became a cornerstone client. Their mission was real, their work was gritty, and my designs for them didn't glitter. They gripped. We won awards. Not the kind you get a giant check for, but the kind that gets you more of the right kind of work. About 2 years after the divorce, I was hired to rebrand a small family-owned chain of Italian bakeries. The owner, an older woman named Rosa, reminded me of my grandmother. She wanted something that felt like home. I spent weeks in her bakeries, the smell of yeast and sugar filling the air, sketching while she told me stories about her family coming from Sicily. One afternoon, a woman around my age was helping Rosa behind the counter. She had a laugh that cut through the clatter of sheet pans, warm and real. Her name was Sophia, Rosa's granddaughter. She wasn't impressed by my job title or my growing portfolio. She was impressed that I could tell the difference between a sfogliatella and a cannoli without looking at the label. We started with coffee, then dinner. It was easy. There were no games, no performances. She knew my story. It was hard to live in Chicago and not have heard some version of it. And she didn't pity me. She just saw me. Mark. The guy who liked old bakeries and bad puns. Life slowly started to feel full again. It was a different kind of full. Not the frantic, fragile happiness of my early days with Elena, but something deeper, more solid. It was built on early mornings, hard work, and the quiet comfort of a hand to hold that wasn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, whispers about Elena would still find their way to me. The foundation had fizzled out. The money, it turned out, was a magnet for the wrong people. There was a lawsuit with a contractor who overcharged for the community centre renovations. The Elena Rossi Foundation for Community Hope was now just a faded sign on a building that was rarely used. The $5 million had become a ghost, haunting the hollow spaces it had created. One crisp autumn day, almost 3 years to the day after the divorce, I was walking through Lincoln Park with Sophia. We were planning a trip to Italy, finally. A real one, not a deferred dream. My phone buzzed. It was a news alert from a local business journal. Phoenix Creative, tapped for major city rebranding project. I showed Sophia and she squeezed my hand, her smile brighter than any lottery check. And in that moment, I felt it. Not pride, not even happiness, but a profound sense of peace. The universe's cruel joke had set me on a path I was always meant to be on. The money would have been a trap. It would have kept me comfortable, stagnant, forever wondering what if. Losing it forced me to become someone I could actually be proud of. The story of the lottery win became a footnote, a bizarre piece of trivia from my past. The real story was what I built after. So, this is where my story ends and begins. If you're watching this and you're holding on to a hurt that feels like it's defining you, I'm telling you, let it go. Let it fuel you. Your greatest revenge, your truest victory, isn't in what was taken from you. It's in what you build with the pieces that are left. Because sometimes, losing everything is the only way to win the life you were always meant to have. Your comeback awaits.